I see that Sklearn.get_config gives you a dictionary. This dictionary holds all of scikit-learn's settings. Think of it like a control panel for scikit-learn. The dictionary Sklearn.get_config returns contains the global settings for scikit-learn. These settings control how scikit-learn behaves across your entire project. Changing a setting here changes how scikit-learn works everywhere in your code. This is the core question we are trying to answer. It's focused on understanding how Sklearn.get_config works and what it does. It's important to carefully analyze each statement to determine its accuracy. Let's dive in. This is a correct statement. As we already discussed, the function returns a dictionary of settings. This statement is incorrect. You cannot change the global configuration by directly editing the dictionary. You must use Sklearn.set_config to modify the settings. This is also a correct statement. The ability to get a snapshot of your configuration is invaluable for debugging. You can see what settings are currently active, helping you to troubleshoot why things might not be working as expected. It's like taking a picture of the control panel. I'll explain scikit-learn's configuration system. It lets you tweak how scikit-learn behaves globally. Think of it as a control panel for the library. We'll focus on how to check and modify these settings. This question tests your knowledge of the Sklearn.get_config function, which is used to access scikit-learn's global configuration settings. We'll figure out which statements are true about this function. This statement is false. The Sklearn.get_config function returns a copy of the configuration, not a direct reference. Modifying the copy doesn't change the original settings. Think of it like taking a photo of a setting. Changing the photo doesn't change the actual setting. This statement is true. It's super useful for debugging. By checking the current settings, you can understand why scikit-learn might be acting in a certain way. Imagine it as a diagnostic tool showing you the library's internal settings. This statement is false. You don't modify the dictionary returned by Sklearn.get_config Instead, you use Sklearn.set_config to directly change the settings. It's the correct way to update the global configuration. This is correct. The function returns a dictionary. This dictionary holds all the scikit-learn global settings. It's like a snapshot of the configuration settings at that particular moment. This is the function we are discussing. It's how you access the scikit-learn's global configuration. The function returns a Python dictionary, a data structure that stores information in key-value pairs, which is very useful for representing settings. These are the settings that affect how scikit-learn works overall, not just for a single task or model. I'll explain the function. It's a way to get a snapshot of scikit-learn's current settings. Think of it like checking the control panel of a machine to see what's currently active. This question tests your understanding of how it works and what it's used for. Let's analyze each statement to see if it's correct. This statement is incorrect. I want to emphasize that the dictionary you get from is a copy, not the original settings. Changing the copy won't affect scikit-learn itself. It's like modifying a photocopy. The original document remains unchanged. This is also false. You do not change scikit-learn's settings by modifying the dictionary. Instead, we used to make adjustments directly. It's the proper way to make changes to the scikit-learn configuration. This is true. A key use of is to check the current configuration. This is particularly helpful during debugging to see if changes you made actually took effect, or just to understand what settings the system is currently operating under. I'll explain the Sklearn.get_config function. It's a scikit-learn function that gives you a snapshot of the current global settings. Think of it as a way to peek inside scikit-learn's control panel. It's super helpful for understanding what's going on under the hood. The function returns all its configuration settings as a dictionary, a data structure where you have key-value pairs. Each key represents a specific setting, and its associated value shows the setting's current state. For example, one key might be print_changed_only, indicating whether scikit-learn only prints changes made to the model. It's like a little report card for scikit-learn's settings. This statement is correct. The dictionary returned by Sklearn.get_config truly contains every single one of scikit-learn's global settings. It's a comprehensive overview of its current setup. Think of it like a complete profile of how scikit-learn is set up to work. Absolutely, this is a key use case. When things aren't working as expected, I'd use sklearn.get_config to check what all the settings are. That allows me to check if settings were accidentally misconfigured or if they're just set differently than I thought. It's a lifesaver for troubleshooting. This is incorrect. Although you get a dictionary back, it's a copy, not a direct reference to the global scikit-learn configuration. Therefore, changes you make to that dictionary won't affect the global settings. It's like having a photograph of the settings. You can modify the photograph, but the original remains unchanged. It's crucial to understand this distinction. This is also incorrect. You don't modify the dictionary returned by sklearn.get_config. Instead, I use sklearn.set_config to directly modify the global settings. It's a separate function designed specifically for that purpose. Think of it as the Save button for scikit-learn's configuration. This section's title tells us that we're about to learn about the behavior of scikit-learn's function. I'm excited to dive in. This is the question. We need to choose the statements that accurately describe how works in scikit-learn. I found this statement to be false. Nope. The function returns a asterisk copy of the configuration, not the actual configuration itself. So, changing the copy doesn't affect the original. This statement is also false. Incorrect. You don't modify the dictionary returned by. Instead, you use to directly change the settings. This is true. That's right. Is very useful when debugging. It lets you see what's going on behind the scenes in scikit-learn. This line introduces the topic. We're focusing on how to get scikit-learn's configuration settings. It's a core function we'll investigate. I'm telling you that sklearn.get_config gives you a dictionary filled with all the settings that control scikit-learn's behavior. Think of it as a snapshot of the current settings. I want you to see that. sklearn.get_config is super helpful for debugging. If something isn't working as expected, you can use this function to check the settings and find any potential issues. This is incorrect. The dictionary you get is a copy, so changing it won't affect scikit-learn's actual settings. You need a different method to change those. This statement is also incorrect. You don't change settings by modifying the dictionary. Instead, use sklearn.set_config with specific settings you want to adjust. I'm looking at the scikit-learn get_config function. It's a tool to get a snapshot of scikit-learn's internal settings. Think of it like checking the control panel of a machine to see what's currently set. This question tests your understanding of how get_config works and what you can do with the information it gives you. Are you ready to dive in? Let's go. I'll tell you what happens if you try to change the settings in the dictionary that get_config returns. You can't directly change scikit-learn's settings by editing that dictionary. It's a copy, not the original settings. Think of it like a photo of a control panel. You can't change the real control panel just by altering the photo. This is absolutely correct. get_config is super helpful for finding out what scikit-learn settings you're actually using. It's a great tool for debugging if something's not working as expected. You can use it to verify whether settings were changed correctly. This statement is completely accurate. get_config hands you a dictionary, a structured list of key value pairs, holding all of scikit-learn's global configuration settings. It's like a comprehensive report. To actually change scikit-learn settings, you don't fiddle with the dictionary that get_config gives you. Instead, use set_config It lets you modify settings directly by specifying which settings you want to change. These are the options you had to choose from to answer the question about get_config. Each option tested a specific aspect of your understanding.